Hey, this is Alex from Temple of Void. I'm here at the iconic Motor City Guitar in Waterford, Michigan. We're here to talk all things Les Paul. This video is not sponsored by Motor City. These guys are my favorite local guitar store. Whenever I'm looking for a new guitar, amp, pedal, this is always the place that I come to first. So let's go check it out. Hey, so I'm joined here with Sean from Motor City. Sean, what's up?
Hey, I'm here with Alex. We're going to be looking at Les Pauls today. We've got a custom silver burst. This guy right here. We can go through the specs in just a minute here. Mm-hmm. And Alex has got the 50s gold top.
It's a thing to behold. I've never owned a gold top before, but it's definitely on my bucket list of Les Pauls to pick up.
Which is fitting because you've got the gold top, I've got the silver
Yes.
burst. I definitely fell in love with these, seeing like punk bands in the 90s around here and stuff like that. So yeah, the custom is great. I love the standards too. The Adam Jones is another awesome one.
Yeah. I love the finish on a silver burst when it ages and it gets that like yellowy, kind of greeny patina to it. That looks money.
They make an Adam Jones VOS as well. That one will definitely age into that green, just with the nitro, the way it ages. Yeah.
Yeah, it looks so nice. So Eric from TOV, who I also play in Love Interest with, he was a silver burst guy. He had a silver burst custom, and my first Les Paul was a 1981 black standard. And the thing about getting that guitar, I was 21. It was my fifth guitar, but it was my first Les Paul. When I got that guitar, I didn't buy another guitar for 10 years because it was like having like a Porsche 911 when you're 21. I was like, why would I ever buy another guitar? Like, this is it. Like, I have the pinnacle of guitars, was a vintage Les Paul. And so it took me, because I couldn't wrap my head around, why would I have another guitar? If I had a Les Paul sitting there, why would I pick it up? Why would I pick something else up?
Sure.
And then it took like a good decade before I ever was like, look, man, there's more guitars under the sun than just Les Pauls. Okay, now I've got, a Tele, I had a Strat, a Jazzmaster, a Jag, an Explorer.
Yeah, getting into the one of everything kind of period of your life.
And then exactly. And then there's a cycle where it was like, okay, Les Pauls that's it, where it's at. Then it was sort of like a one of everything. But now I'm at a point where it's like I figured out and kind of doubled down on what I really like about guitars, and I have two camps. Les Pauls being like the ultimate guitar for me for heavy music. So when I play in Temple of Void or Hellmouth or anything, it's Les Pauls for sure. So the Explorer is gonna go. The Mockingbird, that's when. But then on the other side, when I play Love Interest or like something else, it doesn't require like the heaviness. Then I figured out I'm an offset guy, and it's like Jags or Jazzmasters. But it's been an awesome journey, like a lot of guitarists go through, like that.
Oh, yeah, of course. Because, and like you said, like a lot of people, sometimes you find that one early on. For me, it was kind of similar. I had a bolt-on Epiphone Les Paul. That was my first deal. Really kind of like, that's when I started kind of learning by ear and just getting acclimated to it. Like I said before, there were definitely a number of bands around locally, primarily like punk and hardcore stuff, but I just seen it throughout my life, this classic stuff, Led Zeppelin, Aerosmith, all this stuff you see everywhere, But yeah, after that, I ended up getting a flat top special, but has the same pickup set that they put in this one.
Oh, okay.
And I didn't know I was inadvertently stumbling into quite possibly one of my very favorite pickup sets, which is the 490R, the rhythm in the neck here, and the 498T. Basically, there's tons of PAF variants out there. Yeah. This would kind of continue that legacy, but take it into more stuff that's a little bit more appropriate for modern rock and metal.
One of the first things I do when I get most any guitar is I rip out the pickups and I put something else in. Because it's almost like I have this predetermined idea that whatever the factory put in is just not suitable for me, or it's not up to snuff or whatever.
You want to have custom from the get.
Yeah, except for the Jazzmaster and the Jag, because part of the reason that I wanted those is particularly because of like, the sound, whatever.
Distinct single coils. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
For sure.
And I could change those to different single coils or whatever, but I'm really happy with the way they sound. But anyhow, in Les Pauls, I never thought that the off the rack pickups would have enough kind of girth and grit for me for like the death metal that I play, in TOV. You're saying that right out the gate, you think you can take this into that
I like them
territory?
for that range of stuff.
Okay.
Like I said, I kind of got spoiled by them. That guitar I use for tons of different stuff, but it, just mellow and pretty stuff, playing with tons of effects and all that.
Yeah.
But even like just learning like intro theory and the little bit of stuff I did in high school, like jazz band and stuff like that. Those, like, if you work that volume and tone, you got the right amp, they could definitely mellow out really nicely. So I was always impressed with them for that side of things. And I didn't realize until a couple years later, I was in the really thrashy band, kind of grindy tech metal type stuff. But basically the thing with my other guitarist and myself was, like, I want to be Ben Wyman from Dillinger Escape Plan. Like, I want to be ripping that headstock all over the place and just being a maniac. And I always thought I needed a Floyd and all that, but my playing style didn't really lend itself to that. It just looked the part. I liked the guitars and stuff like that, and I had I had more of a shredder Floyd setup.
Yeah.
And I remember I was playing some riffs off Metallica and Justice for All, and I'm just sitting in my bedroom doing my thing. I'm just, probably like, I don't know, late teens, maybe early 20s. And I'm sitting there and I'm going back and forth between the shredder guitar and my really plain Jane Les Paul, the special. and I picked it up and I plugged it in, and I had a 5152 at the time, and it just had this button, and it clicked to my ears, and I was like, obviously it's a really high gain amp.
Yeah.
But I was just enamored with the pickups from there on, because for most applications that I had to throw at it, it would succeed pretty well. So yeah, if you were going to stay with some stock, one versus the other, because these are going to be a little bit more classic in the 50s versus the custom. Those are the 57 classics. In the gold top, you've got Burstbuckers. So definitely way more kind of old school PAF classic, a little bit more mellowed. These ones can get that kind of harsh bite to it. They have an upper mid boost, but when you've got the right amp with it, I've always been like really into the palm muty lows. I really think it handles it well.
You mentioned like a lot of the punk and the hardcore bands that and kind of metal bands that you're seeing early on, and you also said PV5150.
Oh, yeah.
To me, that was like the staple setup for, mid 90s, like late 90s. It was a Les Paul through a 5150. And that was, that got you everything that you needed, for that kind of music. For sure.
Yeah.
And I think it still holds up to this day. And I don't think it's ever, I've had more than one, maybe two or three 5150s in my life. And I think it's an awesome combo to go with that.
Yeah, like I said, that wasn't any rig I completely planned out. I knew I wanted a Les Paul. That one I think was around $600 at the time.
Yeah.
And so I was like, okay, like I can afford that. I can make that happen. And then switching from from solid state combo to all tube combo, and then being like, it's time, I gotta get the half stack, And I came in here, way before I was ever a part of Motor City on the staff here. But I came in here and they had they just got 5152s in stock, and I got it then, and that was the main amp for a long time.
Yeah, it's a workhorse.
Oh yeah, it's a slugger.
I wanna circle back. I had a Jackson, and it had Floyd, and it was the first and last Floyd that I ever dealt with. I think there are people who are like Floyd people, and those of us who are not. And
sure.
I am in the not camp, simply because of the upkeep. Like, I hated changing the strings, like chopping off all the little ball ends and like all the Allen keys and all that kind of stuff. I changed my strings a lot. I like a bright tone. Like some people, like Don in TOV, he loved a dead sound. Like he liked it when his strings were really,
they've got some life in them already.
And they've been kind of worked in, and they have that sort of like, I don't like that. I like it when they're brand new and they're,
Yeah, I like that presence and punch from new strings too. Yeah.
And neither is right or wrong. It's just people have preferences. And he was awesome with his Floyd, but I just can't deal with I can't be bothered with them. Did you ever go back to him, or were you?
I never really went back, and it's funny that you mentioned Don, because I knew Don from back then when he was playing in. I'm trying to remember the name of the band; it slipped my mind at the moment. We used to play shows with those guys.
The Plague?
And yes, it was absolutely the Plague. And I remember meeting him and their bass player at the time, and they were just super nice guys. And I was like, oh man, cool, and just watching. I think we played a basement show with the Plague, and I think guys from Today I Wait, and I just remember standing there with my guitarist from my band, Dustin, and just like watching Don play and be like, oh my god, like how is this guy a peer of ours? Like look at his
yeah.
skill level.
Yeah, he's awesome.
But yeah, he definitely was always great with the Floyd. I was rocking it for a while. I went back to Stoptail. I don't think I mean I might have played it here and there after that, but I really kind of stuck with Stoptail for the most part. Like you said, I kind of have a similar thing. Heavy stuff I'm mostly playing on a Les Paul. More mellow stuff. It could still be very much Les Paul, but it might be like the Jazzmaster or something like that a lot of the time too.
Yeah, I sold that Jackson to Brian Eschbach from Black Dahlia Murder. I remember
This
him
is a
coming
great
to my
full
house
circle story.
in Farmington Hills when I lived with my parents, and so this would have been like the late '90s. You know, it could have been maybe like 2000 or something, like before Black Dahlia was like the Black Dahlia that we all know today. Whatever, it was like $500 sold it or something, $300 to Brian like a long time ago. My second Les Paul that I got was actually a gift from my wife when we got married, and she bought it from Motor City actually. It's a Light Burst 2010. We got married in 2011, whatever, 2010 model. And it had a bunch of newfangled features on it at that point. I think it has a little bit of weight relief in it, like it's a little bit chambered, and it has this input, like locking input jack.
Oh yeah,
and then it has a clear, like lucite control. You know, like you can see into the electronics on the back there. And here too, it's like it's translucent, and so coming from the 81 Les Paul, which is just sort of again like the 911 of Les Pauls, I was like, well, this is incredible. I have another Les Paul, but I was like, what about these modern little tweaks to it? And I went into it like, I don't know how this is going to be, but I was a believer actually. I really like the locking input jack. I think that's like a really cool feature.
Yeah.
I like the lucite, that you can see into the controls. I think that's a cool feature. And actually, I don't know if it's true or if I'm like tricking myself, but I believe that the sustain is improved by a little bit of the chambering too, So
Yeah, you'll definitely have a different resonant response overall. Yeah, it'll have a little bit of a different feel to it.
And all those things were improvements, and I was like, this is cool, So as much as I love the vintage, I also love new Les Pauls. I mean, the Les Paul is a Les Paul. I mean, 911 is a 911. They're all good, honestly. But you mentioned EMGs, so I put those in my 81 at some point. But then when I got my wife's guitar, it came with the stock pickups. It probably had like something similar, like Burstbuckers in it or something. And I started playing it, and I was like, whoa, wait a minute. This is super percussive. And now if I have like a low droning note and I start playing some of the high strings, I can actually articulate and hear them all. And it's not being like canceled out. Like I feel like with the EMG, it was awesome for chugging, and like as long as you're playing like all this kind of stuff, it's great. But if you're trying to do anything in the higher registers and you had any kind of drone, I felt like it kind of canceled it out.
Okay, and it was just kind of getting lost in itself.
It would get lost, and it didn't really like pop out like I wanted it to. But I felt like that was a trade-off that you had to make with an EMG. Was like you get the best chugging, like the sort of Life of Agony, River Runs Red-esque chugging, which they use the Les Paul with EMGs. Because I asked him before, I was like, how did you get your tone? And so I know he was like, it was even in the pick, like how I picked it. Like,
oh, sure.
Yeah, okay, look, I've got a dual rectifier, a Les Paul, and EMGs, and I don't sound like Life of Agony. So like, there's more than your pick. Dude.
Oh, yeah. It's a whole ecosystem. It's a whole equation.
Yeah, there's a lot more going on. But anyhow, but once I got that second Les Paul for my wife, I loved the pickups. Now, they weren't heavy enough for what I was doing, but the response that I got, the percussive response out of these passive pickups, was something that my ears hadn't really had in a long time, because I've been using those EMGs for a long time.
Sure. So
I whipped those EMGs out. I put in X2Ns, which became my favorite. Like, they're the hottest pickups, like passive pickups that DiMarzio makes, and that became my go-to for all the TOV records. It's just, I love those pickups for heavy stuff. I mean, they don't clean up well, but I didn't buy them for cleaning up. I mean,
yeah, of course. And some are capable of that, and some are more of they kind of exist in one end of the spectrum a little bit more, sure.
But they exist in the heavy end of the spectrum, but they also give me that clarity that I didn't get. So I found like that was sort of my holy grail of what I was looking for from a pickup set for playing heavy music, was the X2N through the Les Paul, through the dual rectifier. Like, that's my sort of desert island, I would say. Like, if I was playing heavy music, that would be like my desert island setup.
Sure.
What about you? Pickups? Do you have we've kind of talked about the Burstbuckers and those ones. Do you have anything else that really resonates with you?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of different stuff. Lots of greats from DiMarzio. I definitely like a lot of Duncans. Here in the shop, we sell a ton of bare knuckles too.
Yeah.
But I feel like I gravitate toward Duncans. There's a lot of stuff. I'm trying to think if I have any kind of particulars. Let me see if I've got anything in my notes. That's kind of the hot rodded. This is a little bit more classic. The SH4 and SH2N, kind of like the JB and Jazz setup. But I mean, you have Black Winters and all kinds of stuff that really excels in the high gain.
I have those in the Explorer, and when I kind of A/B the Black Winters with the X2N, I feel like they're a little fizzier.
Yeah,
you know, and they don't have the same. I like the balance of the X2N better and a little bit more of the low end. It's, you know, we're splitting hairs, you know.
Sure.
But I do like the X2N better than the Black Winters. I feel like talking about Les Pauls, I'd be remiss not to mention Slash. He was the guy that, like, when I was 11 years old, User Illusion 1 and 2 came out, and you just see him, you know.
It totally blew your mind.
It did. As an 11-year-old boy, right,
oh, yeah.
who's into heavy music and whatever, punk and hardcore and metal and all this stuff, to see a dude like with this Les Paul slung between his legs, you know, shirtless, hat, cigarette dangling, that imprinted,
General badass.
Yeah, General Badass imprinted like indelibly, like that's what a rock star looks like. They have a Les Paul,
oh yeah,
you know, and that dude's badass. And it was more than like Jimmy Page. He didn't seem like that was like old man's music to me when I was 11.
Yeah,
like Slash was talking to me, you know, like
sure,
at that age. And so that is definitely like what set me on my path and why I now love Les Pauls, have multiple Les Pauls, probably adding more.
Obviously, like we said, you know, we see Joe Perry, Jimmy Page, you know, we see a lot of classic Les Paul players. But it was cool to see guys that were a little bit closer to my age playing a bit more of aggressive music on it. And obviously, you know, you had like, you know, you see Hetfield, you know, playing like maybe an Eclipse or maybe a Les Paul Custom or something like that. So that was definitely stuff that kind of, and Kirk Hammett for that matter, definitely loved Metallica growing up. So,
for sure.
But seeing him play those, and I was like, oh, see, like they play their shreddy stuff, but even they play these bad boys sometimes. Right. So yeah, I was very, very much into that. But yeah, that was kind of what got it going for me. And once I got one in my hands and had a feel for it and had a place like this, I could come into it and try them out.
Right.
Yeah, it really kind of sealed the deal for me. That is just, yeah, definitely keeps, I don't know if I had eliminated it, it would definitely be a Les Paul staying. I don't know if I could narrow it down to anything else, at least at this point in my life. I mean, things always change, but sometimes not massively.
Right. All right, that's a good place to end this. Only a Gibson is good enough. In this case, only a Les Paul is good enough. All right.